Good Monday morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. I'm Maria Bartiromo, and it is Monday, April 13th. Your top stories right now, 6 a.m. on the East Coast. A U.S. naval blockade in the Strait of Hormuz begins today at 10 a.m. Eastern, as President Trump says the ceasefire is holding despite talks between the U.S. and Iran ending with no deal over the weekend. And President Trump walked me through next steps in an exclusive interview yesterday.
We're going to be blockading. It'll take a little while, but it'll be effective pretty soon. They want to have nuclear weapons. They're not going to have nuclear weapons. We have boats pouring up to the United States. They'll be filling them up, and they'll be leaving, and they're going to be packed with the best oil you can get.
So if they do not give up that effort, is that the plan? Will you further destruct Iran?
Yeah, I will. If they don't give that plan up, yeah. I'm not in a huge hurry. What we want to do is we'll open up the strait.
The commander-in-chief on the talks with Iran, relations with NATO, his upcoming meeting with China's Xi Jinping, and the price of oil ahead of the midterm elections. All coming up right here, straight ahead. I'll be speaking with the president once again in an exclusive interview for this program. Catch it Wednesday morning right here. Don't miss it. 6 to 9 a.m. Eastern. The president will join Mornings with Maria. Markets this morning are lower. Take a look at futures, indicating another triple-digit decline this morning for stocks. The Dow Industrial's down 260 right now, 0.5%. The S&P down 42, and the Nasdaq lower by 164. Friday, markets finished this way. Of course, after a hot CPI report on Friday, the Dow was down 269, but the Nasdaq was higher by 80 points as first quarter earnings season begins this week and Congress returns from recess. Let's check the price of oil right now, which has been rising in the overnight session. Brent right now is up at 7 2/3% at 102.44. Crude oil right now up 8% at 104.35. The price of crude once again surging. Interest rates, meanwhile, look like this as we are waiting on Federal Reserve Chairman Kevin Warsh's confirmation hearing. The yield on the 10-year at 4.33%. That is up 0.3 of a basis point. The hearing apparently still on hold, now reportedly delayed by paperwork. Plus, big bank earnings out this week, including Goldman Sachs, J.P. Morgan Chase, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, Citigroup, and many others. There's a look at the major banks right now in the pre-market. And on Capitol Hill, lawmakers are returning from recess this morning to confront the DHS shutdown, the reconciliation bill to come by June, and the president's 2027 budget request. Also ahead, Democrat Congressman Eric Swalwell dropping out of the California gubernatorial race over sexual misconduct allegations, as some members of Congress are threatening now to expel him altogether. And leading gubernatorial candidate Steve Hilton clinches President Trump's endorsement. His plans right here coming up. Joining the conversation all morning long this morning, former CIA Covert Operations Officer Mike Baker is here. Michael Lee Strategy founder Michael Lee is here. And Mornings with Maria is live right now. And we kick it off with the hot topic of the hour. I spoke with President Trump yesterday in an exclusive for Sunday Morning Futures on the current state of affairs in the Strait of Hormuz after U.S. talks with Iran and Pakistan ended with no deal. Take a look. Mr. President, can you explain to us what is going on right now with the blockade in the Strait of Hormuz?
Well, we're going to be blockading. It'll take a little while, but it'll be effective pretty soon. And we had meetings yesterday. They, as you said, lasted 21 hours. That was a long meeting. We had some very, very good representatives, as you know, J.D. and Steve and Jared. So we were well represented, but we didn't get there on the important issue. They want to have nuclear weapons. They're not going to have nuclear weapons. I've been saying that for 30 years. I would never allow that to happen before I was in politics. And that country will not have nuclear weapons. Most countries shouldn't be allowed to have, but that country will not have nuclear weapons.
So, Mr. President, was that the red line there? Can you explain to us what went on in these talks? What did the United States ask of Iran, and how did they react?
Well, they reacted. You know, it was very interesting. It started off weak. They came in like they had the cards, but they don't have the cards. Their army, their whole military is obliterated. The whole place is obliterated. And, you know, as you know, levels of leaders are gone. They're literally gone. Khomeini's gone. The whole thing is gone. The whole place is gone. They have one thing that they can do. They can say, well, gee, we're going to put a mine someplace just a mine. We'll drop 1 mine, 2 mines, 10 mines. And that will, if you have a ship that costs $1 billion, you say, well, I'd prefer not getting whacked by a mine, losing my ship or damaging it badly, at least. And so that's a little bit of a thing that they can do. That it's military might and military power don't do it, but, it's extortion. And they're extorting the world. We don't get our oil from there. We have so much oil. And one thing you said, and I don't know if anybody heard it well, but we have boats pouring up to the United States. They'll be filling them up, and they'll be leaving, and they're going to be packed with the best oil you can get, light, sweet crude. They're going to have the best oil that you can get. But so that's interesting, and it's great because we have a lot of oil. We don't get any. I mean, literally last year it was 1%. We did that as a favor. We don't need the Strait. But other countries do. And I will tell you, while we're on the subject, we're very disappointed with NATO. We're very, very disappointed that they didn't come. Now they want to come and they want to help with the Strait, and it won't take long to clean it out. So we're going to clean out the Strait, and they'll be able to use the Strait in not too long a distance. But we had a very intensive negotiation, and toward the end it got very friendly, and we got just about every point we needed, except for the fact that they refused to give up their nuclear ambition. And that's the only point, frankly, to me. That was the most important point by far.
And I want to ask you about that, and I will get to NATO as well. But, Mr. President, you wrote on Truth Social this morning saying that we will begin the process of blockading any and all ships trying to enter or leave the Strait of Hormuz. And at some point, we will reach an all being allowed to go in and all being allowed to go out basis. Right. So tell us what you're trying to accomplish with this blockade,
all in,
sir.
All out. Yep. It's called all in and all out. There'll be a time when we'll have them all come in and all come out, but it won't be a percentage. It won't be a friend of yours, like a country that's your ally or a country that's your friend. It's all or nothing. And that'll be, that won't be in too long a distance. No, we're just bringing the ships up. We got a lot of ships, so we're bringing them up. We think that numerous countries are going to be helping us with this also, but we're putting on a complete blockade. We're not going to let Iran make money on selling oil to people that they like and not people that they don't like or whatever it is. It's going to be all or none, and that's the way it is. And it'll be, you saw what we did with Venezuela. It'll be something very similar to that, but at a higher level. And
Mr. President, you say that there may be a mine out there somewhere that nobody knows about but them, and this is world extortion. How will the United States ensure that the mines are removed in the Strait of Hormuz?
So we have minesweepers there now. We have highly sophisticated underwater minesweepers, which are the latest and the greatest, but we're also bringing in more traditional minesweepers. And so I understand is the UK and a couple of other countries are sending minesweepers. A lot of countries don't have minesweepers. Think of it. They had 28 mine droppers. What country has 28 mine droppers? 28 boats to drop mines. What country? They've been completely obliterated. They no longer. So we knocked out their entire Navy. They have 158 ships. They have 28 mine droppers. Every single one of them is at the bottom of the sea. Can you believe it? We did that in 4 days. Their Air Force is gone. Their if you look, anti-aircraft, all of their radars out. Anti-aircraft is, their defensive program is all knocked out. They don't have anything. And you know the sad part is, and I can't say this is for you, we knocked out everything, including their leaders. Their military is gone. Everything's gone. Their missiles are down to a trickle by comparison. You know, we knocked out thousands of missiles. We knocked out hundreds of places where the missiles are built, different parts. They're pretty much gone. Probably, they say 85, 82%, 85%. Who knows what it is, but we knocked them out. We knocked out where they make the drones, and the drones are less effective now. And also, we have new machinery to kill the drones. You saw that. The computerized bullets, they call it, and also lasers. The laser melts the drone. It's a beautiful thing to see. So we have a lot of stuff. But think of it. We win this thing conclusively. Even yesterday, they were saying, no, it was a complete obliteration. And when you read the New York Times, you think they're doing well. Oh, they're fighting very hard. It wasn't a hard battle. This was a very easy battle militarily. But when somebody says, you know, we're going to drop a mine in the middle of the Strait of Hormuz, not much you can do to persuade a ship owner that has $1 billion ship that we're going to take a trip up the strait. Now, yesterday, you probably saw, we sent 2 highly sophisticated, beautiful, brand-new destroyers right through the middle of the strait, and nobody did anything to us because what we do is we follow the weapon back. So it follows back, and it knocks out the people on the other side. Literally within 3 minutes, they're knocked out. The technology is unbelievable. But we don't know whether or not they do, whether or not they put mines. They didn't talk about it yesterday. My inclination is to have a few. And I will tell you, it was a good meeting yesterday, really a good meeting, except for one problem. And it's 95%. They want to have nuclear weapons. It's not going to happen.
And this is a key point, Mr. President. For those people out there who have not been following it as closely, can you explain to those people why it was critical for the United States to go into Iran? Can you articulate what was behind that move that was so important for the U.S. to go into Iran?
Yeah, so easy. The easiest question you've asked me so far. They can't have nuclear weapons. They have nuclear. They want to enrich what they have. They want to enrich more. As you know, we knocked out with the B-2 bombers. Had we not knocked that out, they would have had a nuclear weapon within 1 month after we knocked out. In other words, had the B-2s, those beautiful B-2 bombers, totally obliterated their 3 sites. They have 3 sites. And they are now deep in the earth with, tons of rock. Now, that material should be gotten, but we have cameras on it. We have satellites with Space Force. Well, that was one of my beauties, Space Force. So important. But we're watching those. We're watching every single aspect of that area. They can't move without us knowing exactly what's going on. But it's deep down, and it takes a long time to get it out. It's an amazing attack. Had we not done that, they would have had, within 1 month from that date, they would have had a nuclear weapon.
Right.
If they had a nuclear weapon, they would have used it on Israel and the Middle East. Look, they went after 5 countries that were sort of neutral, I guess. I don't know how friendly they were, but they weren't in the line of attack. They dropped on UAE probably 1,800 missiles. They dropped on Saudi Arabia a lot, and they dropped on Qatar a lot. They dropped on Bahrain. They went crazy. And everyone was surprised. Actually, it was good for us because they all joined us immediately, at some point. I mean, they're either going to be petrified or they're going to join. They all joined, and they've been very helpful. All of these countries have been great, and Kuwait.
And this is the key point that I was getting to, and the reason that you feel they cannot have a nuclear weapon, because they will use it. And that's what I wanted you to explain to the audience.
Yeah, I think they would use it. And they'd start with Israel, and one weapon would, do damage like nobody's ever seen. Wipe it out. Conceivably, big one.
Now,
not wipe it out. They don't need more than one. And then they go after the Middle East, and then they'd eventually come here, okay? And we're not letting them come here, and we're not going to let them. We have great allies over there. I'll tell you, those 5 countries. Look at the Israeli relationship. Look at the incredible partnership we have on this. And as Bibi Netanyahu said, we're the big brother, and they're the small brother. And it's been a very effective team. What we've done literally in a matter of days, within 3-4 days, Iran essentially was wiped out. And it's so sad, though, when the press says they're fighting bravely. They're not fighting bravely. They have no anti-aircraft. We fly over there at will, can take out anything we want. As you know, last week I said we're going to strongly consider knocking out their power plants and the rest of their bridges. We took down their big bridge, but we just did that because we were having good discussions, and they go to the press. They're very good with public relations, much better with public relations than they are at fighting. They go to the press, and they say, President Trump said it's okay for us to have a nuclear weapon, when I never even spoke to him. And by the way, that would be the only thing I would never say to them. And they know that.
Right.
And then the New York Times, which is a fake paper. It's just a fake. You just believe the opposite. It's so sad when you look at CNN, the New York Times, ABC fake news, NBC fake news. When you look at this stuff, it's so sad to see it. I mean, they report things that they know are false. It's almost treasonous, actually, if you want to really know the truth. It's almost treasonous. But If you're reading the New York Times exclusively, and their circulation, by the way, is way down.
Yeah.
It's way down. I'm proud to report that. But if you're reading the New York Times exclusively, you would say that they are doing great in the war.
Mr. President,
they're doing terribly.
I want to ask you about that.
The only thing they have is the ability to say, well, we may have some mines. And, if you have a ship, who wants to take a chance? You're not going to take a chance.
Mr. President, I want to ask you about that because you put out a tweet and it really gripped the nation a week ago when we were all waiting and watching for the United States' next move should the Iranians not open the Strait of Hormuz. And you wrote this on Truth Social: a whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again. I don't want that to happen, but it probably will. However, now that we have a complete and total regime change where different, smarter, and less radicalized minds prevail, maybe something wonderful can happen. Mr. President, you were criticized for this tweet because you said a whole civilization will die tonight. What do you want to say about that? And what can you tell us about next steps here? Are you planning further destruction?
Yeah, I'm fine with it. That statement brought them to the table, with the exception of the one thing, which I believe that they're going to give up on. I believe they're going to give up on that pretty soon, to be honest, because it's not going to work. We actually thought we had them, and then all of a sudden they said, no, we want. So, but I believe, no. And when I say that, but remember, what have they said to us? For years, I've had to listen to them say, death to America, right? They say, death to America, death to Israel, America, the Satan, we will destroy America, death to America. Now, does anybody ever complain to you when they say that? I think that's a big step worse. Death to America. So they're allowed to say death to America. And what I'm referring to is, when I talk about civilization, it'll be much different because their military will be totally gone. It's pretty much gone now. But their military, look at their leadership. We have had regime change because the people we dealt with yesterday were, frankly, very smart, very sharp, very good, very good. I think they were smarter than the people from before, Khomeini and that group. Because look what it got them. Look what all of their antics were spending trillions of. They spent all their money on weapons. We've destroyed most of those weapons. But when I say about a civilization, it really has changed. It really has. But think of it. They're allowed to say death to America, death to this, death to. And I make one statement. They say, oh, such a big deal. Let me tell you, that statement got them to the bargaining table, and they haven't left. They haven't left the bargaining table. I predict they come back and they give us everything we want. And I told my people, I want everything. I don't want 90%. I don't want 95%. I told them, I want everything.
Well, and what they
have
want...
no cards, Maria.
Yep.
They have no cards. Their Navy is gone. Their Air Force is gone, totally gone. They have nothing. They have no ships. 158 ships are at the bottom of the sea. Good ones, new. The Soleimani, they had one called the Soleimani, was taken out by one of our Tiger Sharks, by one of our rapidly moving submarines. It's amazing. Our military is so good. Do you know our military is a 94% approval rating now? Well, Congress has a 14%. The media has a 12%. When I started, the media had a 92% approval rating. Now they're down to 14%.
Wow.
And I'm very proud of it because they're very dishonest.
Mr. President, I see what just took place in terms of our NATO allies pushing back and not supporting you and the United States. And I see what has happened with our Gulf allies in the Middle East who do not want a bully in the Middle East any longer. Are you expecting those Gulf allies to help you in this blockade in the Strait of Hormuz?
Oh, yeah.
What other countries are going to join that?
Started. So the Gulf states, now you could say they're much closer, so maybe they have to do it. But, they also could stay out. But they made a mistake when they started lobbing missiles at them. And here's the good thing. The Gulf states, they are rich and they have a lot of Patriots. Our Patriot missile, which is an anti-missile missile, and it's unbelievable. They fired at us one day at a certain asset that we have, namely the aircraft carrier Abraham Lincoln, one of the beauties of the world, one of the great beauties of the world. They fired 101 missiles out of 100. These things are going more than 2,000 miles an hour. And out of 101 missiles, 101 were shot down like nothing and are now at the bottom of the sea, the remnants of them. Think of it, 101 missiles shot. In a short period of time, all 101 were knocked out. So we have the greatest military equipment. We have the greatest people. We have the strongest military in the world by far, and everybody sees it, whether it's Venezuela or what we've done with Iran. And when I read, the fake news talking about how well Iran's doing, they're not doing well at all. They're getting killed. I could take out Iran in one day. I could take down in 1 hour. I could have their entire energy, everything, every one of their plants, their electric generating plants, which is a big deal. And I hate to do it because if I do it, it takes you 10 years to rebuild. They'll never be able to rebuild it. And the other thing you take out are the bridges. I took out one just to show them because they went public with a statement that wasn't true. They admitted it. I say, I'm going to take out a bridge. And I took out a bridge. And that was the end of that. Now they've been really behaving quite well. But in one half of a day, they wouldn't have one bridge standing. They wouldn't have one electric generating plant standing. And they're back in the Stone Ages. I'd rather not do that. But I do believe they're going to come to the table on this because nobody can be so stupid as to say that we want to have nuclear weapons and they have no cards. They have no cards whatsoever.
So if they do not give up that effort, is that the plan? Will you further destruct Iran?
Yeah, I will. If they don't give that plan up, yeah. I'm not in huge hurry. What we want to do is we'll open up the strait. But the ships are coming up to the United States.
Well, don't miss more of my interview coming up in the next hour ahead of my exclusive with the president right here. Catch it on Wednesday from the White House. That is Wednesday right here on Mornings with Maria. We're going to check markets this morning, check the price of oil, and also get into the week ahead now that Congress is back, as well as the bank earnings. We'll bringing you more of highlights from my interview with President Trump all morning long.